Welcome to the Convince Me podcast, where we're on a mission to convince you to step outside of your gaming comfort zone and try something new. Let's get to convincing. Last week, Ryan suffered an unceremonious defeat for the second time in our
Why?
second ever
Why is it unceremonious?
Convince Me versus.
Why are you adding verbiage? Why are
Oh,
you
because
adding?
it's more fun that way. As he is now 0-2 in Convince Me versus. And despite the fact that this person on our previous episode was one of his and his wife's very close friends, but apparently that garners him no leeway when it comes to convincing. And I'm sure that means that we'll be doing another one sooner than later. But we also tried to convince all of you, as well as our guest, to play Donut County and Entwined. Two very short, bite-sized games that really accomplish what they set off to accomplish pretty quickly. Definitely the game for I have a game coming out tomorrow, and I want to play something different before my game comes out tomorrow. So definitely things worth looking into. Whether or not either of us ever play the other person's game remains to be seen. However, our guest was convinced to play my game, and that's really all that matters. This week, we are attempting to convince each other to play Abiotic Factor and Sword of the Sea. But before we get into that, our question of the week
Uh huh.
is something that there's potentially two parts to this. If we have to break it up into two parts, we can. But Ryan, I want you to consider we are currently in a resurgence of remakes. Right, remakes and remasters tends to be the flavor of the week as of late. You
Yeah,
know, we've
buddy.
got Trails in the Sky coming out soon.
So soon.
Obviously, the Final Fantasy VII remasters slash remakes have been pretty incredible, all things considered. We're getting Persona 4 Golden redone. We're getting Tales of Xillia redone.
We have
We're
to
getting a
hope
lot.
it's. We have to hope it's golden because they
Well,
dropped the ball
it
with
is
P
it is
three.
Golden, I believe.
They
I'm
dropped
pretty
the.
sure it is P4 Golden.
They dropped the ball with P3 because they straight up just cut a character out of the game with the remake, and people were not. I was not happy about it because I never played
Sure.
with her.
Couldn't tell you. But anyway, that brings us to the question. Ryan, of any game that exists right now, what do you think most deserves a remake? And when I say I can break this question up into two, we can either choose it to be a remake where it is like a shot for shot modernization with modern bells and whistles of
Metal
the
Gear
game that
Solid 3.
already exists, right, similar to that, or it can be a complete retelling like Final Fantasy VII Remake, where it's more of they take what exists and take some creative liberties with it. Like, what would you like to see be redone?
I think I know your answer, but I will see what
You
you say.
think you know my answer. I'm going to try not to go with really common answers
Wouldn't your answer
for
just be
mine, but go
Borderlands
ahead.
1? No.
No.
I, so here's the thing, right? A lot of my favorite games of all time hold up, which is why they're my favorite game of all time, right?
Hmm.
Like, I don't need a recreation of Ocarina of Time because, barring the awful 64 controller, Ocarina of Time, you could play it just fine, and it holds up
And
well.
and to be fair, it did get a remake on the 3DS.
Right. But even if it hadn't, like, I think it'd be fine still. But it's interesting because something that comes into my mind has been talked about forever and is a game I never truly played. Oh, wow, I just got a new answer in my head, but they're both by the same company. Um, so my answer is gonna shock you. And by shock you, because I mean you're gonna have it's gonna be very left field for what you're probably expecting, but a game that I think could be, it would probably be remade modern with modernity and like modernized control scheme. Honestly, Jade Empire by BioWare. because Jade Empire was a game that was like I played like the opening 5 minutes of it, but it's BioWare, so I believe it was an RPG, but I'm pretty sure it was like it was an action RPG that was inspired by Asian culture but made by BioWare. I don't remember getting into the mechanics, but I have seen many people clamoring for a remake because it was almost like a cult classic, and it was in the middle of when BioWare really started ramping up, and I'd be curious to see a Western RPG take on, like my brain goes to like an Asian inspired RPG with Western trappings, like Western gameplay trappings, I guess. And I think that could work really well because the other game that came to my mind was Knights of the Old Republic, which I'm pretty sure was BioWare, and you know what? Like, I would be a sucker for a good, straight up, like, true RPG Star Wars game. Where you get to make your own, choose either a Jedi, choose a Rebel pilot, like, make your own character in Star Wars and play out a story. Because the world of Star Wars is pretty cool. I just don't care about the movies or the shows or anything, but I think the world itself could have so many cool things that could happen in it.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, two great answers. So, caveat, right? The answers that I would like my gut check answers, the ones that I would probably be expected to give, which are also very common clamorings and requests. Obviously, I want Final Fantasy 6, Final Fantasy 8, Final
Yeah,
Fantasy
yeah, yeah.
10. I want like a proper.
I think they said 9 is on the way.
That's the rumor. It's never actually been
It
announced.
hasn't been
They
official
actually
yet.
just had an anniversary for it where they expected the announcement to come. The announcement didn't come. So nobody knows if that's real or not. I would love to see, better versions of most Pokemon games done in the style of Scarlet and Violet with the world, actualized in front of you.
Scarlet Violet
Um,
or Legends? Which playstyle would
well,
you prefer?
with that's complicated. I so I want it to be like Scarlet and Violet, but I want to be able to interact with the wild Pokemon like Legends.
Okay.
Like I want to be able to just throw balls without having to get into combat. I'd like to be able to catch things without having to fight all of them, but I want it to be the Pokemon formula as opposed to the like Monster Hunter formula that Legends kind of is. That being said, Legends ZA is
They,
almost an action RPG
I was gonna say it's
with
got
how
some
they've
new stuff.
changed the.
I will say this would be a whole tangent. I have looked up nothing for ZA. I don't know what the changes are or anything. I know I want to play it and I know I'm excited for it, but I'm purposely trying to go in blind to it.
I'll put it to you this way. You know, like your Pokemon follows you, you move around the screen.
Yeah, yeah.
All of your attacks are not like usage wise. Like you don't have, 5 uses of Fire Blast. They're all on cooldowns.
So is it like I think
So
that's like
all four of your moves matter.
I think it's like Nino Kuni in that sense because I think that's how Nino Kuni's combat system was.
That sounds familiar, except I don't recall there being as much moving.
There was movement on the map, but I don't know that it like equated to
Oh
too
no,
much.
like
But
that's how you're going to avoid, like you can dodge in that way.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's this is going to be a very creative thing to see. But anyway, so like those are the things I'd like to see obviously. Now, as far as my actual answer for this question, I would this is a bit of a hot take, but we've talked about this before, you and I. So you understand why this is my answer. I need a proper modernization and redoing of Fallout New Vegas
Oh, that is not what I thought
because
you were gonna say.
I hate the gunplay of Fallout.
Hey, Trashy, what's up?
I I
Yeah.
hate I hate how Fallout plays. I understand why. I know that in part it was technical limitations, but like
Okay,
now that I've
that's
seen that
we
Bethesda
can't
is
say that.
capable.
We can't say technical limitations
No, we
when there are
can't.
games with
No, we can't.
incredible gunplay out that came
Oh, I
before
know.
Fallout. We can't say
But they
that.
wanted to stay with their system, right? They wanted the VAT system to matter. So they hampered and hamstrung their own system to make people have to use that or not have to. I mean, it's just not for me. I didn't like it. Um, so I would love to see like leave the game exactly as it is. Leave every choice the same. Basically, do it like the Oblivion remaster was just done, but give me the ability to actually play the game like a first-person shooter, and I am all in. Like that's a game you go ahead and sink 100+ hours into in a single playthrough.
And I think that's fair. So your main issue is not issue, but the main thing you would want done is updated gameplay and updated
Yeah.
graphics.
Basically, yes, make it play and honestly look just like Starfield, but let the game still be Fallout New Vegas. Because I will say plenty about what I didn't like about Starfield, but the actual combat was good. You know, the guns felt distinctively different. The progression to them was
I
good.
mean, honestly, that's how I felt about Mass Effect 3. Because I
Hmm.
will stand by this, and this may be heinous to some people. I don't know, but in my opinion, from what I remember of Andromeda, Andromeda to me had the best combat in the entire Mass Effect series, but the worst everything else.
I don't really think that is a hot take. I think that's pretty well understood,
I
and
don't
it
know.
should have been,
I don't know if it
considering
is.
the amount of time in between them.
Yeah, that's fair.
In
That's
fact, I
fair.
think it was a full console generation between.
Mass Effect 3 would have been it would have come out on
It would have been a
PS3,
360 game.
and then
Yeah.
Andromeda was PS4, so it would have been the
Hmm.
next gen.
A full generation. Hmm.
Yeah. Um. Total Star Wars remake. Oh yeah, someone remade Star Wars in Starfield with mods. Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Hmm. I uh. I wish I was more into. I wish I played PC games more. I do. Like
Yeah.
I have the capability for it. Like I have a laptop with a really decent graphics card and plenty of RAM. There's something about it. I think I just need to just do it, you know. But
Yeah.
I always get nervous because the amount of times I look up, like you see, uh, people talking about in different subreddits. Like I'm trying to get this game to run, but it's not working. And then there's like a whole laundry list of like, oh, you got to boot this up first, and then you got to uninstall that and move this to this folder to get it to work. And it's like, I just want to play the game. I don't want to code my laptop to make games work. And I know they work 90% of the time, but
Sure.
yeah. But with that said, with that said, um, this is gonna be an interesting one this week.
Is it?
Yeah, I am going to try to convince Darren to try Abiotic Factor, and
Hmm.
I think I've. you, you know how we were talking earlier about how you have a Metroidvania thing. Um,
Yeah.
I think I have a thing for games that work really, really well when you're
If you play with
playing
other
with
people.
friends. I went into
You're already not off to a great start here.
I went into Abiotic Factor completely blind. I think I looked up the synopsis on the Xbox Game Pass, not even a store, but the Game Pass, and I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. I looked at maybe a couple screenshots on the store, and I was like, all right, this sounds like it could be fun. So I just blind installed it and went in. So I did want to preface it with that. However, there is a difference between Abiotic Factor and a game like Redfall, right? Where Redfall, it felt like the baseline of playing a good game was playing with other people. Like, that
Mm-hmm.
was the baseline to make the game playable. This one wasn't really the case, because you have the option of there is a single player option. I think in Redfall it was like you could turn off online mode or disconnect or not connect, whatever. This game, it has like a single player version of the game. So in Abiotic Factor, you are a scientist that has recently moved to a new facility. And you're not quite told what they do here. You just know they do research of some sort. So you are start the game in your car, and the first thing I noticed was the graphics. So if anybody is familiar with, I can't remember any of the game's names, but do you? I'm gonna tie it to Game Grumps. But if anybody here, or Darren, do you remember that like coffee shop Starbucks horror game that the Grumps played,
Yes.
where it was like modernized N64 graphics, basically?
Yes. Yes,
Um,
indeed.
great, great playthrough, by the way. But or it has those kind of graphics, or like the horror game where you were at the laundromat, you were the woman at the laundromat. Uh, I think the Grumps played this one, but like all those the random surge of horror games with modernized old school graphics, like it's that kind of graphic fidelity, which was jarring at first, because like I said, I went in, I saw a couple screenshots from the other side of the room, and I didn't like blow them up or anything. I just looked, I was like, oh snap, that looks fine. So that's the kind of graphical fidelity you're working with. But you walk into this facility, and yeah, lo-fi gaming. That's basically what it is. Um, but you go into this facility, and they're like, oh, it's your first day, and you have to go through these steps that are essentially a tutorial of how to play the game, but it's your introduction to the facility, where you have to um, pick up your like PDA thing that gives you access to your inventory, and you have to crouch down to pick something up off the ground. You have to crouch to go through this vent, and you have to build these things, because this is a I don't want to classify it as horror, because it's not. But it is a survival crafting game, which for me personally, I don't like.
Sure.
Like people who put thousands of hours or hundreds of hours into like Ark, or oh my gosh, is it Raft? There's so many
Rust.
survival, yeah, Rust, things like that. So many survival crafting games, and every time I watch people play them, I'm like, no, I would get so bored, because that's just not for me. Not for me.
Also, you were talking about the closing shift.
Yes, yeah, closing shift. But it's that graphical style. But this one was was fine, and I I'm getting ahead to the after I explain. But yeah, you get your introduction, and then as you're going through this person who's talking you, because it is voiced, talking you through the tutorial. I believe the accents were Australian, I think. So I would have to look up, but I think this might be an Australian-made game, because I think
Mm.
every voice was Australian. Um, and so as you're going through this dude is walking you through, keeps getting like these calls of like something's going wrong, and you one of the tutorials teaches you to craft a net. So what you do is you go through, you break things, you pick up items, and you have a backpack that has a limited amount of space. You have a toolbar where you can keep things for quick access. And one of the tutorial things is to craft a net. And you walk up to this thing. You walk up to this it's like a makeshift thing that exists in the compound, but they did it for tutorial purposes. But you have to throw a net on it and stomp it. And the thing that you throw the net on looks pretty larva-like. So so you go through and then things go wrong, and you have to move through, and you get on an elevator. And then the tutorial just ends. And so that takes you to the actual start screen. And so when you start, you end up in this cafeteria, and there's a guy who calls you over. And he tells you to go find this other person. And you go through, and you're like I said, you're in the cafeteria, and you eventually find your first blueprint, because you need a blueprint to craft things. And the way the blueprints work was cool, because what you did when you get a new blueprint that you've never done before is you have to logic it together. So when you get a new blueprint, you go to your crafting section, and then you press A on the blueprint, and what it does is it pulls up almost like a mini game, and you have to put a certain amount of objects. Like, for example, it'll give you 4 squares, and each square has a different border. And so what you have to do is, like if I was crafting a heater, because the building gets cold at different times, is it gives you like 8 objects. And you have to pick the objects that you think would logically go together to make a heater, like a puzzle. So you may have like a table leg, a fan, an energy pack, or an energy brick, and like all these things, and you have to think, which of these things would it make sense to make this object that I'm trying to unlock the blueprint for. And I actually had a lot of fun. There were points where I had unlocked like 10 blueprints, and I was like, bet. So I just opened the screen, and I just went through, and I just logicked together all these blueprints, because it was fun doing that. I like puzzles. And then once you do that, to craft these things, you need you can either craft them on the spot, like a bandage, the net, things like that, or you have to go to a powered crafting table, because there are different plugs around the laboratory, and you craft a crafting table, and you have to plug it in, which gives you access to more things that you can make. And so your loop is going through this lab and finding new blueprints to unlock new items that allow you to get further into the lab, make progress into the lab. Now, I will say, do I think this game would be even better playing with people? Yes, because it's clearly designed with that in mind. However, unlike Redfall, it's totally doable on your own. You just have to think differently, because the things that you're fighting are like this weird... You are going to hate this. Because you know, gosh, what? Don't spider ants in Borderlands make a sound when they jump? Like when they like leap at you? Like a high-pitched squeaking sound? Yeah, these...
It was more the scythids that made that sound.
That's the one. Yeah. So, these little like larva things like are jumping around making that noise, so you have to kill them by throwing a net on them to trap them and then stomping them. And you'd have to craft nets to do that. There were also these like Demogorgon dogs, these big dogs that Annette didn't do a ton for because there were these giant dog-sized things. So I had to get a knife and I had to stab these things to death. And let me tell you, it was challenging. It was really hard because they took a lot of shots. And there isn't quick healing in the game. The fastest way to heal is to get to a safe place where you built your bed and rest. And that made it very challenging because you couldn't just like quick heal on the spot. There are bandages, there's splints, there's things like that, but as far as like healing as a whole, there wasn't anything that I had gotten to, in all fairness. There could be something later. But I hadn't gotten into anything that did like quick healing readily available to me. So that's something to be aware of. And then this is the thing that made the game the most interesting to me. So you're going through, you're building things. The way you build things is you either craft it or you can break down, like package certain items. So if there's a desk or a chair or a bed or something that you find that you want, you have a percentage chance of breaking it. But if you succeed, you can package it and then just carry it somewhere else and then rebuild it. And what you do to build is you place it where you want it, and then you have a screwdriver, and you basically attack the piece of furniture with the screwdriver until the meter fills, and then it's built. But what happens in this game is that it has something that I do want more games to have, because Skyrim made it one of my favorite things. It had skill-based, or usage-based skill increases. Where if you, as you're constructing furniture, like as you're screwdriving a piece of furniture to build it, your construction skill increases, and as your construction skill increases, it makes you like build things faster, and you also eventually get like passive perks from doing these things. So everything you're doing in the game is making you better. And I forgot to say this at the beginning, but you choose the type of scientist you want to be, or the type of class, basically. I chose a defense analyst, I think is what it was, so that made me better with melee weapons, made me have more toughness, more health points, things like that. Because I like hitting things. So, that determines your starting stats, but you basically just get better at things by doing it.
Sure.
Which,
Makes sense.
is I think it is my favorite mechanic in an RPG is where you get rewarded for playing a certain way. You're not hard locked into like doing anything. It's just like, I want to get better at shooting things, and I go shoot things, and that's fun. Because it also forces you to change things up. You're like, oh man, I want to get better at this thing. I'm going to go switch it up and go use this thing. And you're not locked into a play style. If it's not working for you, start doing this other thing. Sure. So that's how the skills work. And there were so many skills. There was cooking, there's hacking, there's construction, there's so many things, so that everything you do is making you better at other things in the game. So yeah, your goal from what I got to is to get deeper into this lab and figure out what kind of research were these people doing. And I guess by the time you're done, your goal is to stop it. Or I guess just find the source of it. Yeah. So that's Abiotic Factor. For a survival crafting game, which is a genre I do not touch, it did what it wanted to well, because I feel like as a genre, typically your survival crafting games are like targeted toward being multiplayer. There aren't, I don't know, I feel like that genre just exists to be played with friends.
Sure.
Now, this is coming from an absolute noob in the survival crafting genre because I don't play it, but I feel like whenever I hear that, it's typically a multiplayer game.
It does seem that way. I certainly don't have very much experience either, and with good reason. Because I mean, I like if I'm going to have crafting in a game, I prefer it be either the ability to craft equipment or the ability to craft something to make myself stronger. Eh, the thing that I hated doing the most when I used to play Far Cry was I hated going and, you know, finding the wildlife and killing them to get the resources to like increase my ammo capacities and whatnot. But like you had to do it because otherwise
You,
you had no ammo.
you know the one I never did. I never got anything in the water because I have such severe thalassophobia. I was like, "Hey, sharks, y'all are good. Y'all can keep what you
I
have. I'm not
I
coming
did
after
end up
you."
doing it. I did end up doing the water ones in 4, and it still leaves me with a little something inside of me. I didn't enjoy it because I don't necessarily have thalassophobia, but I do have a terrible fear of sharks. Just sharks. And when you need to skin one for a coin purse or whatever, I didn't enjoy that. So to like that type of crafting for me, for like resource management sake, or like the ability to craft more potions on the go, like that's kind of nice. But I mean, if I have to interact with jumping larvae that squeak, and I have to throw a net on them and stomp them out, and you don't give me a shotgun to do it,
there,
um,
there might have been range. No, there was a crossbow that I.
that's not a shotgun. That is
Well,
distinctly different from the
no,
shotgun that
but
I
it's
use in
ranged.
Borderlands.
It's ranged.
Well, but do you remember when we had to use shotguns in Borderlands when scythids came at us because they were the worst?
Scythids
I
are
don't
the
I don't
worst
need
thing.
I don't need that in better graphics.
But it,
Um,
it's not better graphics.
Different graphics. Um, I don't know about this one.
I mean, I had to
I don't
tell
know
you
about
what it
this one.
is.
Yeah,
The moment it started,
yeah.
I, I booted up the game. Remember, completely blind, and so I pressed start game, and or I think it might have been the main menu or start game. I don't remember, but I do remember the first time I saw the graphics, I was like, I let out an audible, oh, because I was like,
That's never
uh,
good.
well, not
That's
because it's
never good.
not because it's bad. It's just my initial thought whenever I start these games is, how am I going to put this so that Darren wants to try it or is interested in trying it? And the moment the graphics started, I was like, I have to tell him what the graphics are. And I know that as long as I've known you, graphics, they matter to you. They do. And so, like,
They do, but
obvious.
they matter less now, considering the prevalence of the 2D HD pixel art genres. Because, like, technically speaking, that is worse graphics
I mean,
than
2D HD
certain
isn't
things that I've
fair
played.
because 2D HD
Yeah,
graphics
but
are
like,
beautiful.
if you appreciate it for what it is, yes, absolutely, no questions asked. But like, if you're playing a game like Dead Cells and wishing that it looked like Final Fantasy 16, you're playing the wrong game. You know what I mean? So I'm less stringent with that than I used to be.
I feel art
Um,
fine. Art direction. You care about art direction.
yeah, yeah, that. And if I have jumping, squeaking insects that I have to kill, I need like shotguns,
Hold on.
multiple,
Hold on.
plural.
Let me.
Oh, don't give me a sound bite.
No, I'm not gonna give you a soundbite. Uh. Let's see. What? I don't even remember what
Don't
the thing was
don't
called.
do things that could get a sound copyright stricken
No.
either.
Abiotic factor. That's not what was jumping at me, was it? Is
If
this
you
what was
can't
jumping?
recognize it, that might be
Oh,
another
scuttlebug.
issue.
There you go. There you go. Scuttlebug. You can look on the stream. That's it. That thing was attacking. Yeah. That was fun having to throw a net on that thing.
Nope, shotguns.
So that was a biotic factor. Blonde said it's adorable. See, he gets it.
It would be adorable with 8 pellet holes inside of it.
So
Okay,
needless to say, I know you're convinced.
nailed it. Um, all right. So now that that's addressed, Sword of the Sea, brand new game, brand new, came out, I believe, at this point, as of recording this, about a week and a half ago.
Yeah, brand new.
Um, Published by Giant Squid, the studio known for publishing Abzu. This game is not long.
Mm.
I believe it is somewhere between 3 and 5 hours, depending on how you explore it.
Ooh, another short one.
And
Nice.
it feels very similar to Journey in a lot of ways, not just in terms of how you progress through it, which admittedly is pretty linear, but it's still very open, like full camera control, everything. But even the environments themselves feel very similar to how Journey felt. Now, obviously, Abzu, it's a game entirely underwater. Um, Sword of the Sea starts off with this sweeping, very beautiful, like panoramic shot of the area, and you're inside of this cave. And you watch this drip of water slowly slide down a stalactite, whichever
So
one comes
I
from the
okay.
top.
I learned this when I was
I've learned this
teaching.
many times.
So stalactite hangs tight to the ceiling,
Word. So
and
stalactite done.
stalagmite is the other one.
Word. So water drips down, stalactite drops on this like stone, think terracotta soldier statue type deal.
Okay, so
And
before we continue, because I want to set the picture, like graphically, like, are we what kind
Journey.
of?
Journey
Oh,
Abzu,
straight up
like
journey.
that.
Okay,
Straight up that. Like
I
so
like.
beautiful but somewhat polygonal, like intentionally polygonal,
Sure. So
right?
not
Except for the environments. The environments are stunning. Absolutely stunning.
like
Character itself.
hand drawn backgrounds or like pre rendered or what?
No. Pre-rendered, I would say, not quite intending to be realistic, but God, what would I even compare it to?
I don't know.
I mean, I think honestly, I think if Abzu was in a desert,
Nice,
or
nice.
if Journey was made in 2025, so like you could see textures in the sand, you could see the stones of the cliffs around you pretty well. Um, but anyway, so you're inside this cave. Water drips down, lands on top of this stone soldier
Mm-hmm.
that starts glowing with light, and you like burst open, and you effectively come to light, and you acquire this sword that you then start surfing on. And
Sick.
so all of the movement in the game is surfing on a sword. As you make it through this cave, you learn, the jumping mechanics. There is a double jump eventually. There is some other stuff that you can do that is definitely more for style and flavor.
3D.
Go on. Mm-hmm. Fully 3D. Like, fully, you can move the camera around at any time. Um, and as you go through this a little bit, it almost becomes SSX meets Journey. So, like, you're on your sword, which effectively runs just like snowboard physics. And there's chains eventually that you can grind on. And when you hit pause, you notice a very distinct score in the upper right corner.
Is this a snowboarding game?
No, it is not. Um, so the sand, you notice there's weird like physics to it.
You already
Um,
won over Trashy. I'm
Excellent,
convinced. That's it.
excellent. We haven't even gotten to the good stuff yet. So there's this like currency effectively that you collect as you find like urns and whatnot. And then you interact with the only other being, other than perhaps one other thing, that you come across that is just a person, like a dilapidated stone person that as you approach, they come back to life as well with a giant jar on their back, and they collect from you what you have been collecting. And as you give them the set amounts of what they're looking for, I believe it's like 300, 500, 1,000, 2,000, I want to say is what I collected. You gain the ability to, as you jump, do tricks. So, like, you can do some sweet board grabs and, like, melons and flips. And, like, if you mash the button, then you start doing, like, 360s and stuff, too. And go figure, when you start doing that, that score on the pause screen starts increasing. Um, So it's just another thing you can do. As far as I'm aware, mechanically, does nothing for the game other than give you something to do on the long jumping bits that you get a chance to interact with in the world. Which is honestly, it's just fun, and so that to me feels like it was put there for fun specifically. But you start to realize as you go through, there are these statues that you can go through and interact with a couple things, and the world changes around you. I don't want to get too much into it because it's not a very long game and I don't want to take away some of the impact
Yeah,
of
yeah.
stuff. Um, but as you go through, do a little bit of puzzles, which is more like platforming, jumping type things. You learn there's stone tablets that you can learn more about the world at large and what's happening. And you realize that this world is as it is now because fire and water kingdoms or something like that went to war with each other. And while the water was able to burn out the fire ended up raising the land to the point where it was just sand.
The
And
Fire
so
Nation
you've
attacked.
pretty much effectively, except the Water Nation canceled them out. And so what you're left with is this sprawling desert that used to be like lush green sea, land, ocean, what you would expect. And as you go through and start clearing out some of these puzzles, all of a sudden the sand starts to turn into ocean again. And
Oh.
oceanic wildlife starts to appear swimming into the sky, and you can interact with that ocean. So I actually accidentally unlocked an achievement as I went through one portion of the game because I jumped and grabbed onto an orca, and the orca carried me around for a while. And that was super dope. Once the sand turns into water, it's as though you're on like an F-Zero boost pad, and you just start going faster and faster and faster through this world that just like starts speeding by around you. But the contrast between the desert and the water graphically was so stunning to me that like the first time it happened I just had to stand there for a second and look at it
Are we
because it was
talking?
so well done.
Are we talking like good music crescendos? Like how's the music
Oh
hit?
God, yes.
Because
I haven't even
Journey's
started the
music.
music yet. I haven't even started on the music yet. I put my controller down in the roughly 3 hours that I played and like looked around. I put the controller down no fewer than 4 times. And each time was different. It was different music in each little area that you pass through. And once you unlock things and the water starts to come back to the area, yes, sweeping crescendos, full musical style shifting, like it's this feeling of a deep triumph for doing something that's honestly this game's not very difficult, but you are rewarded through the change in the environment and the music and the way that you can interact with the world around you, and then you get to rip off this sweet 50-50 or board slide on your sword on this chain to go back to the area that you came from just for fun, and then rip off like a 900 board slide on your sword getting off of it just for fun, and then you hit pause and you see your score went up. So like this game is is again it's very similar to Journey in the way that it plays, the way that it feels in so many ways. But modern Journey, and it feels like all of that nothing in between when things would happen when you played Journey, they filled it with just stuff to do.
Sick board tricks.
Sick board tricks that you do on a sword.
Sword tricks. Oh.
The Sword of the Sea. because it's actually a snowboard, and what is the sea but melted snow?
Snow sorting.
Love it. But you hover, so like it's even better. Um, but
I mean,
there's like chests and stuff to find. There's collectibles. Like they really do reward you for your exploration. And then you also get the opportunity as you explore to get more of that currency to let you get more sweet tricks that you can do, which I honestly found myself looking forward to because why not?
what is the
It's
goal?
the best feeling as to just go, and as you go, you're bringing water back to the desert. And as far as you know, based on the stone slabs that you find of the state of the world around you, that's all you know.
Mm, okay.
So really, you're dropped into this world knowing nothing until you find your first stone slabs and start to learn more about the world at large. But again, it's not a long game. I don't necessarily want to give too much into it because realistically, if you didn't care about exploring and didn't want sweet, sweet board tricks, you could probably beat the game in a sitting.
Yeah, Journey is an hour.
I believe it's a little more than that, but yes, my fiance played it to completion in one sitting.
Yeah. Did you finish? Did you get a chance to finish Sword of the Sea?
I did not, but that's because my ADHD kicked in and Lost Soul Aside came out.
Yeah, yeah, it did.
No,
Shoot, man.
I did not, but it's not that I couldn't have. Honestly, I meant to sit down and play more of it, and I just have other stuff I want to play. Um, but the game it's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning, and it's one of those games. It does not overstay its welcome.
That's
You
important.
go in, get exactly what you want out of it, and because it's so quick, and because there's things that you can do, you basically as you beat it unlock the ability to do like speed runs of it, which like for that type of person, huge perk. Like go see what kind of sweet shortcuts I can find with the upgrades that I have and how
Um,
can I make this game faster.
yeah, no, I'm in. I especially if the music is that good and it's that short. Yeah, no,
It's
for
so
sure,
good.
for
It's
sure.
so good. It's
Um,
so pretty and it's so good.
oh, that makes sense then. You did say that Trashy said it looks a lot like Abzu. That's because it's the same developer as Abzu, which
It
you.
is. Yes.
Yeah, no,
That's
makes
correct.
sense. Trashy, do you have Game Pass? I think you do. I feel like we've talked about this, and Blanche, I wonder if you do as well, because I know you two have PCs, but Game Pass is also on PC. So if you do have Game Pass, oh, you did, but currently you don't. Okay, fair enough. Because if you have Game Pass, it is on there.
PlayStation.
Oh, PlayStation. Is it PS
It's on
Now or was
PlayStation
it the?
Plus.
Oh, PS Plus. Never mind. I'm a big
It's part
fat
of the
liar.
games. It's part of the games with PS Plus.
Oh, I'm a big fat liar. Why do I lie?
Good question.
So,
It is one of the rare PlayStation Plus games that was available day one.
yeah, okay. Because was this was when did we hear about this? Didn't we hear about this game? Not at
Sword of the Sea.
Gamescom, but
It was the Sword of the Sea was the same time that we heard about that other game that just came out that was poorly reviewed. Uh, wait, it's August, so I guess I mean it might have been May,
I don't remember.
like whatever that game convention stuff that was going on in May or early summer
I don't remember.
in a
But
very roundabout
we
way.
we did hear we heard about this game before it came out. I'm just trying to think of where. I don't remember where.
I mean, it was from a state of play, like from a Sony conference.
Right.
I'm just trying to remember what other things
Yeah, I can't remember.
were in that. The one that we just saw, I think that's potentially where we learned about Hell Is Us.
I'm so excited for that. No, just August 19th. During today's state of play, the June 4th state of play.
So June. Yeah, there you go.
The June 4th state of play. It was a 40-minute show,
Mm.
and it showed baby steps. Oh, that was when we learned about the new Digimon game. That was when we first heard about the Final Fantasy Tactics, I think.
Yes. Yes, it was.
And more
And the
Ghost of
collector's
Yotei.
editions of it, the collector's edition of it,
The new.
sold out in an hour.
Oh, Tokon, the Marvel fighting game was that state of play. The new
Oh,
Double
was
O
it?
Seven game was that state of play.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nioh 3, Pragmata, which everybody was freaking out about. Silent Hill F, they're Sword of the Sea. Yeah, I think you might be mixing something up because there's nothing on here that came out that got poorly reviewed. You might be mixing up another state of play because none of these have come out
Maybe.
yet.
Maybe I'm confusing it with the Microsoft one that was at the same time.
But I'm in. I'm absolutely in. Um, so color me convinced. Congratulations.
Woo!
Now,
The wins just keep coming.
golly day, I'm not gonna hear the end of it until I win one. Um, so
It's by the law of averages, it's bound to happen.
why would you say that? You know my law of averages. You've seen me roll dice.
By the law of averages, it's bound to happen.
You've seen me roll dice. I
Yeah.
don't average anything. I average
By the
below 10.
law of averages, it's
So
bound to happen.
I did want to talk about um, some good news in the gaming world and some not so great news. Good news: Metal Gear Solid 3, the remake, is awesome. I'm finally getting, not finally, but I'm getting around to playing it, and it is everything I wanted. If you are on the fence about Snake Eater, buy it, get it. If you are interested in Metal Gear at all, they did a fine job, because some people are complaining that it is pretty much what you were talking about earlier. It is, barring like 1% of changes from what I've seen. I'm pretty sure it's like 99% the same game. And I think there are some people who are not happy about that, which in
Mm-hmm.
my mind, I'm like, if Kojima's not there, I don't want any changes made. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not Kojima's project, don't change anything. It's Kojima's baby. Do a 1-to-1 remake. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Because that will hopefully lead to... Now, here's the thing that may become a problem. Is when you look at Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, they were designed with top-down in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So enemy placements, enemy behaviors, all of that was designed with the fact that the player could not just look directly ahead of them, because otherwise the game would be incredibly easy. So if they remake Metal Gear Solids 1 and 2, they're going to have to redesign some stuff. They're going to have to redesign how the enemies act, how the enemies respond, where the enemies are. They're going to have to change a lot of features. They're going to have to change boss fights. Because one of the boss fights is against Revolver Ocelot, and it is just in a square room with 4 pillars. And all you need to do is shoot him. But when you're playing in a top-down only view, that's challenging. But when they remade Metal Gear Solid 1 on GameCube, it was called Twin Snakes. You noticed when you played those that a lot of the boss fights that were challenging in the original, because you could go first person in the remake, they weren't nearly as hard. So like they're gonna have to change some stuff, man. So I don't know. I don't care as long as I get Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 in their HD glory. Because here's the thing, Metal Gear
Mm-hmm.
Solid 4 it holds up.
Sure.
It holds up. It looks
Because
great.
it really wasn't that long ago, I guess.
It was PS3, Doug. It was PS3. I got Metal Gear Solid 3 or 4 when I first got my PS3. That was like, I'm getting
Oh,
a PS3 and I'm buying it with my PS3. And the other
okay.
issue,
Never mind.
Metal Gear Solid 4 is locked on PS3. There is nowhere else to play it at all. Unless you emulate, there is no official way to play Metal Gear Solid 4 anywhere else.
That is surprising.
Yeah, yeah, great games, love them, trashy, highly recommend. If you are into stealth action, highly recommend. Highly recommend. Don't listen to anything Darren says. But now for the bad news, because I'm not. I don't even want to. You trashed my favorite game, one of my favorite game series of all time, in an episode randomly with your hot take. I don't want to hear from you. You can't speak on this. Bad news. I'm curious to see what everybody in the chat and what you have to say, Darren. Vampire the Masquerade 2. Bloodlines 2. For those who haven't heard of Vampire the Masquerade, it is a cult classic video game based on a tabletop role-playing game where you play as a vampire. It's a whole big thing. There's a mod patch thing that you can download to play the original game modernly. It's a whole thing. And then many years later, they announced the sequel, which a lot of people were happy about. The company announced that 2 of the clans on release will be locked behind a $21 paywall.
Oh,
Now,
oh no.
the way Vampire the Masquerade works, normally be like, oh, whatever, it's like basically an extra mission. From what I understand, that would be the equivalent of Larian Studios, when they released Baldur's Gate 3, just being like, oh, you want to play as a fighter or a warlock? You got to pay $21, buddy. That is the equivalent of what they have done by locking 2 clans, because the clans act as your class, basically. The game it's normal priced. Trashy. It's normal priced.
It's gonna be a $70 game.
Uh let me confirm. So this add-on pack comes as part of the premium edition of the game if you're willing to fork out $89.99.
Well,
Let me see what
I mean,
let me see what it is. The creator of the game came out with the rationale for
oh
it.
yeah, and what's that?
Before I
We
tell you
wanted
what he said,
people.
I want to look up. I
We
want to look
wanted
up what it
people
is.
to pay to have fun.
The
The game
base
isn't
game,
fun, but if you want to have fun with it,
the game will be $60 on release, which like that's great. But the fact is, if you want the full game,
it's 90.
yeah, this is giving Asura's Wrath vibes. You're so right, dog. You're so correct. For those who don't know, Asura's Wrath had straight up story locked behind additional content. You didn't get the
Yep.
full story unless you paid for DLC in Asura's Wrath. Horrible.
Yep.
But before I tell you the rationale,
Uh-huh.
what what do you think, buddy?
I mean, you can just tell people you don't want them to buy your game. You could just pull it. That'll work. I'm assuming the rationale is something along the lines of those clans relative to what they allow you to do in the game would make the game too easy, and it didn't fit the challenge that they had in mind for the IP or whatever. Whatever speech they want to use to try to justify charging you extra money for the full price or for the full game.
You ready?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So this is from IGN. Their headline is really funny. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 has 2 clans locked behind DLC because of business. So that's what the headline says. So this was an article that they put out August 21st. It was by Matt Purslow. Uh, it was a business informed choice, publisher Paradox has said. Um, so basically, the original had 7 clans you could start with. With these
Okay.
2 cut out, the new game has 4.
Where'd the mysterious other clan go?
At Gamescom, IGN was able to ask the publisher why the 2 clans were part of an add-on pack. We were told that additional content is quote unquote pretty typical for games, but that adding fan-requested content comes at a cost. What the team has done here is make these 2 clans accessible on day 1, while still understanding that the original experience is going to be with the first 4. You hear fan feedback and you're like, okay, you know that they want these 2 clans, it's highly sought after. At the end of the day, business-wise, game development takes time, and the 2 clans is additional content that does get created. So instead of making it day 30 content, making it day 1 content allows it to be available for those players who have been asking for those 2 clans the entire time. And like I said, it's business. That just happens the way that it does. But it provides that access on day 1 rather than them having to wait.
I think me and this person need to sit down and have a talk about business. Hey Brian, I want you. Let's say, just for the sake of ease of numbers, right? Let's say 1,000 people wanted to play this game. A low number, sure, but for the sake of numbers, let's do that. What makes more money? 1,000 people buying the game for $50, $60, I guess, or 10 people buying it for 90. I
Yeah.
The fact that they would just ignore the fact that if they would just give people the stuff they wanted in the game, they would sell more copies.
This is like the Street Fighter DLC. Like
Uh
on
huh.
disc locked DLC that they did back in the day. Blanche
Uh
made a
huh.
good Telltale Games ruined the story driven games industry. That's an interesting take because they released their chapters. They released their chapters, yeah.
But I think there weren't their chapters only like $15 each though, like
It wasn't
from
it
the
wasn't
rip.
full price for each one. And I
Yeah,
think
I don't
if
think they were ever
you
full price for each.
which I do take yeah, I get it, but I think if they also released like a package after everything it came out where you could buy everything, but it wasn't full price for each one. Um the corpos are
Like I mean, Borderlands, right? Borderlands didn't do it with 3, but in Borderlands 2 and pre-sequel and now 4, they are releasing new characters as DLC eventually,
but
right?
like
But that's like that would be like them only launching the game with 2 characters.
I would even say those characters that they're releasing aren't ready yet because some people don't understand that like DLC sometimes, not always, but sometimes from what I've seen, the idea for DLC comes like mid development. And so they start developing it while they're halfway through the game, and the extra thing, the DLC, the characters, whatever, they're not ready for release.
Hmm.
They're ready a little bit after, even if it comes like a month after, 2 months after, 3 months after. So like that's fine. But this is the equivalent of Gearbox being like, yo, we got 6 characters ready for you, but you're only gonna get like 3, 4 Vault Hunters on release. The other 2, you gotta buy the premium edition if you want. Like that's basic. That's what they did. Now I will say, this might be leading to the good ending. You're absolutely right, Blanche. A good DLC should not feel required when buying the initial game. That is absolutely factual. Unless there's more story to tell that
Mhm.
is an addendum, not required. Yes, but it seems there is an edit. There's an update.
Mhm.
Amid backlash, this is also IGN again by Wesley Yenpool, posted 6 days after that original article. Amid
Mhm.
backlash to Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 locking clans behind DLC, Paradox has said it's quote unquote making adjustments ahead of launch. So,
Oh, we're sorry. We didn't know that would make you mad. We're sorry. Sorry. We're sorry.
because yeah, the clan that you choose at the start of the game determines like your traits and your abilities because that's how clans work in Vampire the Masquerade. And so they were like, only true fans want this, so we're just gonna make it so that we're gonna punish the true fans and give them the thing that they wanted.
Mhm.
Because that's
You
that's
know
all you're
those
doing.
people. You know those people who supported the game the entire time. Eh, eh,
Blanche
eh.
said, "We're sorry we couldn't get away with ripping you guys off right in front of your faces. We'll make sure to plant the knife in your back instead to try to stab you from the front next time." I mean, yeah, like you're only apologizing because you got caught. Because it's not if nobody said anything, you wouldn't have changed your minds. And the surprising thing is I honestly I like Paradox. Paradox makes some fun games.
You might say that this decision was a
Paradoxical.
paradox.
There's also a lot of other things that fans of the tabletop game of it because this is a whole topic, but as far as I've seen, it seems like there may not be like a true character creator per se. I think you're given a character and then you can like slightly modify them. I think romance options might be like that. People
I mean,
are
let's be honest.
not.
They're probably gonna nerf those classes when they come out.
I don't know. Yeah, I like Paradox. I don't like the nickel and diming from them, but yeah, I it's is Paradox AAA? I don't even know to be completely honest, but
I'm pretty sure we established it depends on their budget, but
it is.
studios, double A studios can make triple A games if they have the budget for it.
You're not wrong.
They're not
Par-
mutually exclusive.
um,
But I do want to
Paradox.
talk about triple A games because it just occurred to me.
We're not AAA. A typical game team at Paradox is 10 to 20 people.
Um, okay, but what's your budget? I
Um,
guess staffing probably matters, but I don't know. That's a little myopic.
is there considered
To
a major publisher of high budget games? Okay, so they apparently they could be described as a AAA indie, potentially.
that is like the biggest oxymoron I've ever heard in my life.
Not necessarily.
That's if you have AAA budget, you're not indie because that
What?
means you're backed by something decent.
That's like saying Larian's not indie. Larian is absolutely indie. They also just happen to have really large budgets because they've earned their budget.
But nobody's calling Baldur's Gate 3 an indie game. They're calling it a AAA game
But it's
because it's a
indie.
AAA game.
It was made by an indie studio,
Yeah, but
and
where was their funding? Where did their funding come from?
from a
Because that's
game
the
that they
thing.
it came from a game they made with Kickstarter money. Divinity Original
So
Sin 2 and Divinity Original Sin are the games that like put these
that
dudes on the
is
map.
sure, but that is unlikely to be factual. It is unlikely that there is a lot of money left over from the development and sale of those games because you have to maintain overhead after a certain point. Usually, projects like this get funded over time by some investment group. Very seldom can a company use company money, or rather, very seldom do they even want to use company money to produce games. Like the two most powerful resources in any development are OPT and OPM, which is other people's time and other people's money. If you have an opportunity to develop a good product with somebody else's money, you take on very little risk. because your only risk is whether or not you can pay somebody back.
Larian
So it is
said
very unlikely, and
Larian
it's low.
said that the success of oh, you know what it was? No, that makes
Hmm.
total sense. It was the early access release of Baldur's Gate 3. They had an
Did people
early
pay for it?
access. Yeah.
Oh well,
But
there
you
you go.
got the full game on release, but the early access allowed them to pretty much expand the game gigantically.
But where did the initial build money come from? That's the question, because they had to have a build ready to go into early access. So it's where that money came from is the question. And ultimately where that money comes from is
I guess
where,
investors, right?
well, see, and that's the point. It depends on who the investors are,
Yeah.
right? Because if you are being invested in, let's say, hypothetically speaking, like I don't think this is the case, but let's say that one of Larian's biggest investors was actually like Square.
If anything,
That
it would be
means,
Wizards of the Coast.
you know what I mean, right? But like, okay, Wizards, if you are being heavily invested in by Wizards, you're not an indie studio.
This is so interesting. I don't. Yeah, because like technically
Now,
speaking, they
admittedly,
are indie.
we're definitely just arguing semantics of it, right? But like, indie studios can produce AAA games, but calling something AAA indie is weird. Doesn't roll
That's
off the
feel
tongue
weird.
fun,
That's feel weird.
especially if you're an indie studio, but your biggest investor is a massive player in the industry.
Wait, you got point. Somebody spent points. Oh my gosh, I've missed all these messages because I'm looking up how Larian Studios got their funding. Um,
That's okay. That's okay.
yeah,
Um,
but it's it.
well, and they're
I
probably not going to, unless you want to go through and read their like tax filing statements. We're not going to see where that money comes from because they don't usually advertise it. It's simply in tax documents and financial statements, which again they'd have to agree to publish their financial statements in order for us to know that. But like, all that is to say, semantics wise, if your main investor is a big player in the industry, I don't think that makes you an indie studio. If you crowdfund everything you do and you happen to be able to source enough through funding to have you AAA money, then I guess we can call it a AAA indie. But it really just depends on who your investors are.
in the end, it is semantics, but
Yeah.
the bigger issue at hand is the fact that this developer who took who is taking a an incredibly beloved cult classic niche game and trying to nickel and dime for these people who clearly care, because if you want to play the original Vampire the Masquerade, like, you have to take fan made stuff to make the game truly workable. These people put their effort and time into your it's not theirs. I think Paradox just got the rights to it, but into this property that you're working on, and then you're just going to be like, "Oh, only the true fans wanted this, so we're going to charge them for it." Like, what are we doing? What are we doing, guys? Don't lose sight. Don't lose sight, man.
You know who I'm hoping hasn't lost sight though, speaking of, is Gearbox. Because it has just occurred to me that when this episode comes out, we are officially, when future Darren listens to this, we are officially in Borderlands 4 launch week. And that is very exciting.
Because this will be coming out September 8th, and Borderlands comes out September 12th. And
So for
then
all listening, happy Borderlands 4 launch week. Let us know if you pick up Borderlands 4 on launch, who you started with. If I go radio silent, that is why. Because I will probably go radio silent. Because that's all I'm going to be doing for the next between 6 months and like 10 years.
I will be I will be waiting on Borderlands 4 to get it at another time, because I will be wanting to finish Trails in the Sky, because Trails in the Sky remake comes out a week after Borderlands 4. So I will be doing that for future me. So
And
I'll
then the
have
week after that
2 weeks.
is Final Fantasy Tactics.
I will wait. I can wait on that. I'm
That's
very
crazy.
excited for that. I'm very excited for that. But I can. I can give that a little time. I can give that a little bit of time.
And then 2 weeks after that is Pokemon Legends.
I'd stop drowning me, okay? it's stop. I don't like it. But with that said, we will wrap it up here. Next week we are doing an old school episode of Convince Me to Go Back, which is the series where we specifically talk about games that are at least 2 generations old and are games that we never got the chance to play. I will be convincing Darren to try Heretic by Raven Software and id Software. It is a part of the series. I'll talk about this when we do the episode. But it is connected to the game Hexen, which if my brothers are listening to this, they will laugh when they hear that name, and I will explain why next week. Darren, what are you doing?
So it's no secret that what has now become one of my favorite games of all time is Expedition 33. And shout out Sandfall for officially coming out and saying that Clair Obscur is in fact the name of a series and a franchise, and not simply the beginning of the title of Expedition 33. And before that, there was, of course, Lost Odyssey, both of which now we've played and talked about on the show.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Before both of those, from a mechanics in combat system perspective, there existed a game for the PlayStation 1 called The Legend of Dragoon, which for some reason in my head I always thought was a Square game, but in fact was a first-person Sony game. And so I will be
That's
playing for the
fun.
first time. It is fun. And so I will be playing The Legend of Dragoon for the first time.
Nice. Nice. We will see you then. With that said, to everybody in chat, thank you for being here and participating. It really is nice to have other people to bounce off of, because Darren and I, our scope of what we know about games is, in all things, perspective-wise, very limited. Because we really only like playing what we like, and that's like, we don't super branch off all the time. I branch off a little more than Darren, but even then, like I'm pretty set on what I like. So getting other perspectives of games we've never played and whatnot is it's real nice to get other perspectives. I appreciate everybody that's here and everybody that listens. You can see us more on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, Convince Me Gaming, Convince Me Media, and yeah, I think that's it. Suggestions, reviews, feedback, anything you want us to try,
Tell your friends.
tell your friends, and that's it. With that said,
Are you convinced yet?